All right, everybody, thanks again for joining us. Another edition of Maverick Spotlight here. My name's Paul Allan. I work at the Minnesota State Department of Athletics and fortunate to have the head coach of the Maverick football program, Todd Hoffner, join us this morning along with one of his student athletes, senior quarterback JD Ekowa. Thanks a lot for joining us, Todd and JD.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. It's a pleasure and an honor.
So kind of unusual times, obviously, with what's been happening. Not only have student athletes been dealing with what's been going on with COVID-19, the pandemic, unusual situation that puts everybody in, but recently with what happened up in the Twin Cities, with George Floyd's horrific death just over a week ago taking place, and now dealing with that on I guess a cultural type of situation that we all have to deal with here. And JD, I'm glad you could join us today. Maybe we can talk to you a little bit about maybe your thoughts on some of the things that have transposed here in the last week or so. And maybe you can tell us about your experience of what's actually been happening the last week here. You're here in Mankato. You're a kid from suburban Chicago, from Plainfield, Illinois, but you are in Mankato, right?
Yeah. You know, the whole instance with the whole George Floyd thing obviously is very horrific. You know, me and a couple other players, you know, have talked about it, and just, you know, as a cultural thing and as a societal thing, the race issue that's been going on for years that, you know, some people choose to ignore. And, you know, I want to do my part, you know, as a Black man, to try to educate people, you know, on the, you know, systemic, you know, racism that has been, you know, plaguing our country for years. And some people choose to, you know, ignore that fact, and some people choose to not listen. But I want to do my part, you know, to try to, you know, inform and educate people, and inspire people to, you know, go out their way and go out their comfort zone to, you know, support, you know, the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Because at the end of the day, we all know that all lives matter, but, you know, what's been going on for the past years, you know, in terms of, you know, police brutality and the blatant, you know, force that's been used against, you know, Black men for a long time, you know, it has to be addressed, and, you know, it needs to be talked about, and there has to be some sort of movement, you know, in order for all of us in this country to move forward.
So JD, obviously, you know, being so close to home here with what happened up in Minneapolis, we're an hour and a half southwest of the Twin Cities, and there has been some demonstrations and peaceful protests here in Mankato. Are you surprised at how this has gone globally? We watch on a nightly basis, obviously. Here in Mankato, it's easy to see what's on the television, what's happening worldwide. Is that something, like, take us through your thought process when it first happened to where we are now, and how this has turned into a worldwide phenomenon?
Yeah. You know, I think that I don't think it really surprises me. I think because, you know, a lot of people, you know, globally, have been tired of seeing the lives of innocent Black men, you know, being taken away from them. You know, I don't find it as a surprise. I think it's good that now there is some sort of movement that's going on. The fact that, you know, you have protests, you know, not only within the United States, but you see it, you know, and you see it in the UK, and you see it in, you know, Asia, and now you're seeing it all over the place, is because people are tired of other people not being treated the way that they should be treated based on the color of their skin, you know, and, you know, having basic human rights to go out on the street and not have to fear for your life whenever there is another, whenever there's a police officer, you know, walking by you or driving past you, and not having to have the thought that if something goes wrong, that you might have your life taken away from them. I think that's what people have been screaming for years. I think that's what people, you know, want, to feel safe and protected when they're around the police, not feel like they have to fear for their life. And so people are speaking up now, and it's not just in the United States, it's globally. So I'm not really surprised by it. I'm glad that it's happening, quite frankly.
You touched on it briefly about what you'd like to see moving forward as a society and what we can do as individuals. From your perspective as a young African-American, what would you like to see locally? Maybe even take it drill down a little bit further as an athletic program and maybe as a football program, what we need to do moving forward in order to make things better.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to go about it. I think one is obviously bringing awareness to it. And there's a lot of, different funds and different organizations that are trying to help push this movement forward. And so partaking in that and getting involved with those organizations, I think would be a huge step within our, football community and within like the Maverick athletic community, because there are a lot of, Black student athletes at Minnesota State Mankato. So giving them a voice and giving people the opportunity to, donate and participate and kind of get involved with the whole movement, I think would be a huge step, a huge first step.
Coach, in your experience in working with young African-American men and where we are right now, not only as a society, but with your program, your experiences in the last week or so in dealing with communicating with your student athletes. I'm assuming that you have been in touch with members of your football team and your staff with this issue in particular.
Yeah, our staff has been in pretty close contact with the student athletes. I asked them to reach out to every single student athlete within their position group and see how they're doing and get some feedback. And that daily interaction and weekly interaction is something that has existed throughout our program throughout time. When it comes to the George Floyd situation and the racial inequities, racial bias, these are systemic all the way across our criminal justice system, our income and wealth, our education system, insurance, medical attention. The list is very long of the racial inequities that are existent in today's society, and they've been here for decades. And how do we get real change is what I'm really interested in. The unfortunate death and the gruesome life that was taken away, and seeing that these things have been happening for decades, Paul, with social media and cell phones and live streaming and posting and all this kind of stuff is finally bringing things that have been happening to light. And I'm interested in moving forward with our student athletes like JD, who's somebody that I'm listening to. I'm learning. I've never walked a day in a Black man's shoes, and I don't know what it's like to be profiled, to be followed, to be pulled over, to be arrested, to be, basically exposed to things that white people normally aren't exposed to. And so for me to sit here and pretend like I know what young men like JD are going through is unreal, and it's not for my place to talk. But moving forward, some goals that I'd like to see is that we listen, that we learn from our men and women of color, that we have some real change. And I think, social justice and equity are two things that are going to take some time. This has been going on for a long time, and we're not going to be able to snap our fingers and change systemic things that are in our society, but it's going to take leadership, and it's going to take us to listen, learn, and follow.
Well, certainly your position as a football coach, you can impact things. And JD, of course, one of the veterans on the football program, a senior quarterback, you certainly looking forward to you taking a role in some of these things. And what a strange time of year it's been. The football program, of course, we go back to just a tremendous season for Minnesota State, JD, but playing in a national championship game down in Texas, and having that opportunity and your experience coming back, and then looking forward to spring ball and having that cut short because of the pandemic. It's just been one thing after another, it seems, and we're really looking forward to maybe at some point getting out of this situation that we're in and moving forward. JD, heading into your senior, I think you have a semester of school left, not just a year of, not just a semester of eligibility, but I understand you're going to graduate at Christmas, it sounds like, and that's really cool. And tell us what the future may hold for a guy like JD Ekowa.
So hopefully, obviously we take it one game at a time, but we make it back to that national championship and get that natty that we've been talking about, for the past years, because we know that we're more than capable of doing it. Also, once, I graduate, I plan on trying to, get into medical school and hopefully become a physician and, help change the healthcare system and help bring my talents and, my attributes to the table within that regard. But as of right now, I'm focused on, getting my application ready, getting ready to take that test, and then, football. And just kind of, hammering it on from there and, leading the guys and trying to be a big part of the team. Everybody's a part of the team, but, trying to do my job like as a senior and, as a veteran to make sure that everybody's on the same page and we can be as successful as we have been in the past and, continue that tradition and then, garner that national championship that we want.
With what happened in the spring, we lose our spring game. Obviously, a large portion of our spring workouts, I believe there. Maybe both you can talk about what we've done to try to keep things going workout-wise. Coach, maybe you can go first, and what you've been doing with your student athletes, your strength conditioning folks, and this distance coaching. I don't know exactly what to call it, but you've been going through here in the spring, and now as we head into the summer and leading up to fall. And then JD, once coach is done, maybe you can talk about you as an individual and maybe what some of your teammates have been doing to prepare for the fall.
Go back to my assistant coaches. They've been working hands-on with our student athletes, and when we were not allowed to come back after spring break, we treated it just like we were going to have meetings, and our coordinators led those, Joe Bashauner and also Jim Legowski. And they led those meetings through Zoom, through, stuff like we're doing right now. And that wasn't any different than the instruction that they received on campus. So our young men work close. Our young men work really close with my assistant coaches. And that's the fortunate thing that I have is I have great leaders within our staff who do a phenomenal job, who have worked hands-on with student athletes. And so moving forward, we got to put faith and trust in leaders like JD to encourage others to work hard, to, have an inspiration of perspiration and just try and, lead, right? Guide and push and encourage. We're not allowed to coach our guys in the summer. And so what goes on, and hopefully someday they'll get back to working with Tom, Coach Inkrot, who I believe is one of the best strength coaches in the nation. Phenomenal work ethic and great platform and has a very thought out plan. And these young men can definitely benefit from that. But in the meantime, they have to get creative. They have to find ways to do things and work in their garages or whatever they're doing. They're not allowed to report back to us. But I'm curious to hear just how creative they're getting to just try and get some work in.
What do you think, JD? How your workouts been going?
Yeah, they've been going well. It's obviously never the same as being, in a weight room with 40 other guys doing the same lift and encouraging each other, but we do what we can. Like I said before, some of the players have, weight racks and, benches and squat racks and whatnot. So we've been doing our workouts there, and, Coach Inkrot has been, always been a great help. Sending us, the workouts for the summer, running plans and lifting plans and just following that and holding each other accountable, which I think is huge, because it's easy when you don't have to report or you don't have to show up to a workout to not show up if you don't feel like you have to or you want to. But it's our job, especially as our seniors, to make sure that, you know, we're inspiring and we're encouraging and making sure that everybody within, you know, our team is being held accountable and, you know, working out and getting better. Because once the fall comes around, it's going to show who's been, you know, working out, who's been putting the time in, and who's been really, you know, making that extra effort to try to get that lift in, you know, to get better and advance their skills. So we've been doing what we can. You know, whatever is available, that's what we've been using to try to replicate what it is working out in the summer, you know, and keep that kind of motivation going for us. So.
Yeah, just grinding away here. It's incredible to me, JD, this year. You redshirted your first year, so it's your fifth year, but it seems like you've been around a long, long time, longer than that for sure. And I think it's the role you've played. You've been playing since your freshman year, and really looking forward to seeing you back on Blakesley Field here in the fall. Speaking of the fall, JD, have you been following along what's been going on with the NCAA and what they've done at Division II with limiting the number of games that sports can play? And then NSIC announced yesterday that our football program, along with everybody else, of course, won't be able to play 11 like we normally do, but now we're down to 10. Your thoughts on that? And then Coach Hoffner, of course, you can follow up whatever JD has to say here with your comments.
Yeah, so I haven't. This is the first time that I've heard about it. I've been trying to, you know, look up different information about what's going on with regards to, you know, Division II athletics, and you know, I did hear, you know, speculation of them cutting down a game, which obviously, you know, isn't ideal, especially being my last year. You know, I want to play as many minutes as I can and get on that field and, you know, contribute as much as I can. But like Coach always says, that you have to control the controllables. We can't control the pandemic. We can't control, you know, what the NCAA decides to do. All we can do is play each game the way that we know how to play each game. And whether they give us 11 games, they give us 15, or they give us 5, you know, we got to put in our, you know, effort, and we got to put in our all, no matter what. So we got to think of it still as, you know, a regular football season, whether they take away a game from us. You know, we can't control it, but I know that everybody on our team, coaches and players, are going to do everything that they can to, you know, do the best and still go 1-0. So.
Todd, we posted our schedule a day ago, and news broke here after we did that we had changed our schedule up a little bit. Of course, you and I have been sitting in those meetings. We knew it was coming, but we weren't for sure what the schedule is going to be. It looks like right now we don't have our first home game is like the third week of September.
Yeah, very unfortunate situation. And I'm going to go back to JD's leadership here, and what a, you know, phenomenal person and what a great leader JD has been through all the years, and starting at quarterback and rotational starting, making big impacts and leading other young men is nothing short of impressive. And I think we're going to need that this fall when we only have 10 opportunities. When our first game was supposed to be at home against Northern State, that's been moved to week 11. There no longer is a week 1. We're jumping right into week 2. We're going up to Duluth, and then we return home to Bemidji. 2 really formidable, strong opponents that we're going to play really well to beat. And it's tough to start out like that. We did lose a lot of tremendous leadership last year. And, you know, the unfortunate thing this year is we don't get an opportunity to play Winona State. And hopefully both our program and their program do it exceptionally well. And maybe we can meet in the playoffs and continue that rivalry and the tradition of great competition that we've developed over the years with them. And hopefully we have fans. We don't even know our report date yet, Paul. There's so many unknowns, and I'm going to, you know, just get a shout out to all student athletes across the United States and all youth, males, females, all race, all creeds. What a difficult time to be living and to growing when your brain's not fully developed, and it doesn't develop till you're 25. So every young man and woman who's growing up through this, my heart, my mind mind, my energy, my thoughts go out to you. And it's so challenging when we have racial injustice and racial bias and things percolating in the pandemic. And there's just so much tough things that these young men and women have to deal with. And what happened this last spring with student athletes being at national competitions, preparing for postseason opportunities, and to get the carpet pulled out from their feet and not have an opportunity to finish their season, to enjoy a season, to even get to the postseason, was heart-wrenching. And that was really difficult to watch JD's peers not have those opportunities to compete and to finish their seasons. And if we're fortunate enough to have a season in the fall, it'll be a blessing. If we get fans, it'll be icing on the cake. And if we can, continue our success like we have in the past, we'll be elated. And, hopefully we get to that national championship game again, can use some of that experience that we've had through the years of being a playoff team and having some success in the playoffs. Hopefully we can, make that journey all the way to the title and bring home some hardware.
Absolutely, well said. And I think one of the points there that you brought up is a valid one about we don't have a start date yet. And it'd be a lot easier, I think, from a coaching standpoint, right? And from a student athlete standpoint with JD here on the call, if we had maybe a start date for school and you work your way backwards. We do have the football schedule announced, but what we don't have is when can we start practicing, right? And I think that we're all sort of waiting to see what happens here. And it seems like before things happened up in Minneapolis there that we were moving forward a little bit, and now we've hit a bit of a pause on things again. And I can tell you right now, JD, we're looking forward to getting our student athletes back on campus. It's awfully quiet without having young folks around, and looking forward to the Mavericks having another great year, especially with kids like you with excellent leadership. And Coach Hoffner's staff done a great job of bringing good kids in, and of course we've enjoyed a ton of success with those kids. Coach Hoffner, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And JD, all the best as we work toward welcoming you and the rest of your teammates back on campus. Okay.
Orange Roll Herd. Love you, JD. Love you all, Mavericks.
Appreciate you. Love you too, Coach. Yeah.
Thanks, JD. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.